are looking for books ever, I think books find me. When it's the right time, when it's the right moment, books find me. Hello everybody, welcome back to And Life Goes On. Welcome back to my YouTube channel or my podcast or my podcast, depending on where you are or what you're listening to. So, because of a beautiful soul on Instagram named Ankita, I decided to make this video where I would review 12 of my favorite books. Yeah, it's going to be like my personal viewpoint on how you can read these books, on the pointers that you should have in your mind while you're reading them, and the drawbacks of certain books, the great aspects of certain books, what you can take from each book. Because understand that every book comes with its own drawbacks, right? It might be in the way that it's written, you might not like it, or you might love it. But this is all my personal review. This is all my personal take on how, on what do I like and what do I not like in specific books, and what do I take out or learn from every book. So how this video is going to work is that I have created timestamps for all the books, and all the timestamps are in the description of this episode. So in case you do not want to listen to some of the reviews, you can just jump to the other reviews, and if there are certain reviews that you want to directly go to, or you're here only to listen to the review of one specific book, then of course you could do that. Another thing to keep in mind is that the way I have made this video, I have created this video, is that it goes in an ascending order of your spiritual journey. Of course, we all have our own paths, okay? So irrespective of how old we are, whatever is like our age, or how much we are working on our spiritual gifts, it is completely irrespective of that. Depending on where you are at your spiritual journey, I have sort of created this video in an ascending order. So if you're very new to spiritual concepts, I suggest that you listen to it from the beginning. And of course, if you are a little more advanced, so if you want to read something that sort of challenges your spiritual beliefs more and more. Because I believe that as we advance in any journey, in your learning, this could be any sort of learning, your scientific learning, your spiritual learning, or anything. The way to learn is to read ideas that you haven't really read about before, okay, and to have a more and more open mind, which requires us to sometimes read content and read about things that we might not agree with at the first glance. So that's in a similar way that I have created this video. It'll go in an ascending order, and I'll explain how you can use every single book to your benefit. Okay, so without further ado, let me introduce you to my favorite 12 books. So when you are new to spirituality, it's always important to understand that everything is energy, and how like attracts like. So when you work on your energy or thought processes, you would attract similar and better situations in life. And the most basic book that I always recommend to people is The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. And of course, like it has different versions, like The Magic, The Power, which I feel is all a repetition. Now, the good thing about The Secret is that it's sort of the repetitive nature of the book makes the idea drill into your head. So it works in a way that I know that when you read this book, you might feel like every page is sort of talking about the similar thing, the same thing over and over and over again. But I still feel that it's sort of important to keep reading the same thing in different language, like sort of articulated in a different way on every single page, so that this idea sort of drills into your head that everything is energy, and the idea of law of attraction. While this is a beautiful book to begin your spiritual journey with, I still think that there are more, like law of attraction works on a very deep level. This book might be a little superficial. That's a huge thing to keep in mind, that do not get stuck into the idea of the fact that every thought is manifesting. Yes, it is, but you don't need to put that pressure on yourself and start suppressing the negative thoughts, because I have seen people, I have had clients who have faced this issue after reading about the law of attraction and learning about the law of attraction from this book, The Secret, that they begin to compulsively force their mind into only thinking positive thoughts, which is sort of not possible and a very unhealthy psychological approach. And so if your mind is not healthy, your soul will not be healthy and your body will not be healthy. So that's why when reading this book, it's a great book if you have just started to know about the law of attraction. If you don't know about law of attraction at all, then this book is sort of an eye-opener in that case. But otherwise, if you already are familiar with the law of attraction, I don't recommend that anybody should read this book. Then it's better for you to focus more on the inner work, on how to accept your negative emotions as well, on the fact that it's not important for you to only think of positive thoughts when it comes to manifesting good things in life. The second book that I would like to recommend is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. This is again a very famous book. I know it's best-selling, and of course, I believe most of us have already read this book. But of course, if you haven't, then I do recommend you reading this book. Now, there are a couple of things that why I have kept this second. Although the literature is very philosophical and it's a beautifully abstract book which applies to each one of us and our lives. So while reading this book, it's important for you to keep in your mind that you do not have to read this book in a literal way. Like, you don't have to consider it as only a story. You have to consider it how it implies to each one of us. It's a beautiful philosophy of us finding our purpose, of the fact that everything that we go through, every experience that we ever have in our life is always sort of guiding us towards our purpose and the bigger treasures in life, per se. It's a wonderful book if you are somebody who also has this innate urge to discover who you are, why you are here on earth, and sort of want to read like something of an interesting story, but it's not very direct at the same time. So again, it's important for you to keep in mind that do not take this book very literally. Always understand the underlying words. What is this book in depth trying to tell me? How is this book applicable to my life? And ask these introspective questions. I do believe that this is number 2 on your spiritual journey, because this would help you be more curious into life and not read the signs of the universe and everything that's happening around you very literally. So, so it's exactly what the way you read this book is exactly the way you should read the signs from the universe. That you don't have to take anything very literally. The universe can be very abstract in nature. So it's important to keep this thing in your mind, that this book is also superbly abstract and it applies to each and every person's life. Now, the third book that I would recommend you to read is Only Love is Real by Dr. Byrne Weiss. Dr. Byrne Weiss is my favorite author. I wish to meet him one day, and I don't know, I just love that person. So why I am recommending this book is so that you open your mind even more. So many of us, we think that psychology and spirituality and philosophy, these are all different aspects of life, right? We think that spirituality and psychology, they're not connected at all, or science is not connected and physics is not connected, which is, I think, a complete bullshit and a garbage idea. But anyway, so this book is written by Dr. Byrne Weiss, who does past life regression therapy. When I read this book for the first time, I remember, I swear, I was just blown away by what is happening. I always sort of had this inkling that yes, there are past lives that do exist, but I did not have any tangible proof. I never actually read anything that would allow me to strengthen my own belief systems that are my or something that my intuition or my gut always told me. And this book is beautiful to make you understand that everything you see around you is not what we perceive from a very logical mind. Also, it's very important. This plays a huge role in accepting the fact that psychology and spirituality, they really go hand in hand. You cannot have a body without mind, or a mind or a body without soul. Okay, so we cannot have only the mind or only the soul. So it all works together. It is the mind, body and the soul, and the beautiful dilemma of it that creates this beautiful structure of a human being that we are. So this book is there to open your mind. In this book, Dr. Brian Weiss talks about how he does past life regression therapy on two separate people who have never met before. So they speak about their fears, and then they get to know how their fears are connected to their past lives. Dr. Brian Weiss also discusses instances from his first book, that is Many Lives, Many Masters, and the client whose instances have been discussed in the first book. So, of course, if you would like, you can also read the first book and the entire series of books by Dr. Brian Weiss. This would really help you to understand how so many therapists and how so many psychiatrists across the world really use past life to heal your present issues. So this will also help you dig deeper into your own fears, your insecurities, and maybe when it's completely irrational, or when somebody says that your fears do not make sense, why are you afraid of heights or darkness? Maybe there is a deeper reason that you don't understand right now, because it either stems from your early childhood or one of your past lives. At the same time, because I am a romantic at heart, and so I love reading love stories. Like, I love watching movies that are romantic movies. I love listening to romantic songs. So that is why I recommend this book as your first book by Dr. Brian Weiss, because I feel that the fact that this was a love story at the end, and this love story really derives from past lives and how we have soul connections with certain people, and we feel this indescribable pull towards specific people. So this book beautifully describes why we feel certain attractions towards specific people, and how we are bound to meet them in every lifetime, even if we consciously know them or not. So how everybody around us, these people that we love, have had sort of like a past life with us. And that's one of the reasons why we feel so connected with people whom we love. So it's a beautiful takeaway on what soulmates are, and how healing they can be to you, and how you don't have to really worry about chasing somebody or somebody chasing you, and you just need to trust the universe, that the universe at the right time and at the right moment will bring you at the right place, and would help you attract the right person in your life. So yes, so Only Love is Real is my third recommendation, which is a beautiful, wonderful, wonderful book. So if you're also romantic at heart, if you love psychology, you want to deepen your, your spiritual knowledge and your wisdom, I do recommend reading this book. So the next book that I would like to recommend is The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. This is a beautiful book that talks about 6 habits that you should inculcate in your lifestyle, and the importance of waking up early in the morning. It talks about how you can wake up early, what should be the first few things that you have to do every single morning. So it talks about the 6 habits, that's the savers, SAVERS. So it talks about silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribbing, which is like a synonym for journaling. It also tells you how you can do all these 6 activities, for how long you can do it, and the importance of how it would really change your life. Miracle Morning came into my life and I was going through a very bad time, and I read this book. No, this book found me, and then I started doing these 6 things every single day. I woke up in a similar way that it says. It says about waking up without an alarm clock. It talks about waking up with a happy, smiling face every single morning. It talks about the importance of gratitude and everything. And it also talks about how you can journal, things that you can read, and how you can exercise, for how long you should exercise, and literally everything. The Miracle Morning is more about implementation, I would say, than just reading. So when it comes to this book, I wouldn't say that this is like a good read, but it's a great implementation. It talks about having 6 beautiful habits in your life. Although this book is not very detailed, it doesn't talk about many incidents, or is not like a great read, okay? But at the same time, again, it gives you the importance in very brief, in very short, of these 6 habits. So I really recommend implementing the Miracle Morning every single morning. My 5th recommendation is Think Like a Monk by Shetty. This book is just flawless. Think Like a Monk would not just help you heal your spirit or go ahead in your spiritual journey, but like what exactly is going ahead in your spiritual journey if you're not able to confront the negativity in your mind, or how to change your mindset, right? So this book really includes everything on the importance of workouts, on the importance of changing your mindset, how you can change it, importance of meditations, importance of finding your purpose, on why all these things are important, what to do with your purpose, and especially towards the end, it talks about Dharma, that is your purpose, and service, that is seva, that how everything that you do has to serve this world. And it sort of like is a beautiful book to read as human beings. And I don't think anybody should ever skip reading Think Like a Monk, because indeed we must think like a monk. The 6th book that I would like to recommend is called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise L. Hay. This is a wonderful book which talks about how every disease in our bodies is a result of one thought. How one thought, when thought of repetitively, becomes your belief systems, and those core beliefs, they manifest as your diseases. These could be starting from cancer, acne, hair fall, gray hair. You think of a disease, and Louise L. Hay has discussed that the root cause or the root thought of that specific disease. It even talks about children who wear glasses, adults who wear glasses, dry eyes, or literally any physical problem that you can think of. This book comes with beautiful exercises and affirmations as well that you can implement in your life, that I have always implemented and I ask my clients to implement as well. I use those affirmations, and with the help of those affirmations, I was able to heal my acne. I have had severe acne all my life, but it is only after I shifted my mindset and specific thought processes that I learned how my acne was a result of some thought processes. I always use this book and go back to this book in case any of my clients are also facing certain health issues. And so, of course, I don't give medical advice, but I always help them to understand how their psychological thought processes are impacting their health, and how, in order to have long-term better health, it's important for them to heal their thoughts and their belief systems, and not just, not only rely on external medications. Of course, I'm not saying that external medications should not be taken. That's completely up to you and your doctor. But otherwise, for long-term benefits, it's important to heal your mindset. Towards the end of this book, you can also find like an index where she has given all, where you can actually search for a problem or a disease that you have or somebody close to you is facing, any sort of physical problem, any sort of health issue, and you can actually check the thought process that is resulting in this specific problem. You Can Heal Your Life really proves that you can heal your life just by healing your thought processes and your mindsets. The 7th recommendation I have for you is is a 3-set book. It's called Conversations with God. I have only read parts 1 and 2. I haven't read part 3 yet, but I'm yet to read it. But it's parts 1 and 2 were absolutely beautiful. This talks about a person, and this is actually Neale Donald Walsch is a wonderful person. So I heard his interviews as well. He was actually going through the worst period of his time, and he was cursing God on how his life was just falling apart, and he could not become an accomplished writer. That is when he started receiving downloads from an unknown entity, and he would ask questions on a paper and he would receive answers. This book is exactly like he just published all the answers that he received. He began asking questions and just started to receive answers. This book is wonderful because it shows how a person who was a non-believer, so if you're somebody who does not still believe in spirituality, who's trying to understand how God communicates with you, or how higher entities or how angels, ancestors, your guides are always communicating with you, or how you can communicate with them or channel them, this book is really a wonderful way for you to open up your mind, to shift your mindset from just being very logical and rational to being more spiritual and more open to maybe the possibility of the fact that maybe the things that we see around us, that's not the limited reality, and the reality is actually much more infinitely possible and beautiful than we can ever imagine. That's why I recommend this book, because this book actually talks about the unfolding of Neale Donald Walsch's belief systems, because he was also a person who did not believe in any higher entity. He was not expecting that somebody else would begin communicating with him and would ask him to write 3 sets of books. First 2 books are completely different from one another. That's why I recommend going with the first book first and then going towards the second book, because second book is talks about a little different areas of life. For example, how the society functions, and a little more complicated topics on sex and how really the taboos in the society create a more restrictive point of view, and how our education system needs to expand. However, the first book really is the opening up of the Neale Donald Walsch's mind, and is absolutely beautiful. He asks about every single question that you can think of to expand and understand your own mindset and how to create a beautiful life for yourself. Now, the next book that I have for you is by Diana Cooper, and it's called Angel Inspiration. Honestly, any book by Diana Cooper, who's also known as the Angel Lady, is just is an absolute delight. Okay, this woman is just pure beauty. I love the way she looks. I love her aura because it's pure angelic. This is a book that personally opened my mind and also scared me a little bit, because I started practicing those things. I started calling upon angels and started asking for more tangible signs and proofs. Okay, so my scientific rational mind always wants to look for proofs, and hence this book really helped me believe that I do have a guardian angel and I am protected by angels. So again, keep a very, 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 very open mind when you're reading this book. Try to practice all the things that are there in the book, that are listed in the book, and be very open to receiving the answers to the questions that you're asking from your angels. This book also talks about the different kinds of angels, the hierarchy in the angelic realm, and which angel to contact for any specific problem. So again, I recommend all books by Diana Cooper, but of course, Angel Inspiration is one of the books that I personally read, and I really, really, really loved it, because at that time I had no idea about how to go about my spirituality and how to practically see those things, like what is exactly happening. And this really strengthens your belief system. It shows that when you call upon your guardian angels, when you call upon any specific archangel, they really do show up. Now, the 9th book that I would like to recommend is called Discover Your Dharma by Sahara Rose. Sahara Rose is an expert on Ayurveda and Vedic sciences. So she has given this sort of a guidebook which includes exercises, short exercises, and gives you a basic introduction of what is Ayurveda and how you can really implement it in your life. Most of us, we grow up believing that Ayurveda is all about medicines and food that we eat. But Ayurveda is much, 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 much deeper than that. Vedic sciences are beautifully expansive and deep. Hence, I recommend this towards the end because I believe that after reading all these books, you must have expanded and exploded your spiritual beliefs and your mindsets like anything. So that's why now it's time to begin implementing changes in your lifetime and stepping into your life purpose. Sahara Rose also gives tiny ways on finding clues to what exactly your specific and innate gifts are. Why were you sent on this earth? So if you, like me, have always been very curious and have always sort of had an inkling that you might have a special purpose, but you don't know what that purpose is, this book beautifully guides you towards sort of finding out what your purpose is. Now, while this book might not be the best literature that you read, it might not be the most beautifully written book in a way that it's not something that includes a lot, that includes high vocabulary. It's a very simple written book for millennials. It also uses a lot of millennial terms, and Sahara Rose has written it very casually and nicely. So please keep that literature critic quiet that thing down, and maybe again keep an open mind and the takeaway from this book is your own purpose. I hope this book helps you discover deeper into your purpose. Those exercises, they help you step into your purpose, and the basic understanding of Ayurvedas, of the gunas, of the doshas, and how you can use them in your own life helps you discover who you are and who you are meant to be. Now, the 10th book that I would like to recommend is called My Gita by Devdutt Pattanaik. This book is absolutely beautiful because let's understand that not everybody's interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita would be as accurate, okay? Because in order to understand Bhagavad Gita and Lord Krishna deeply, it's important for us to open our minds, okay? And it's important for the person who's explaining the Bhagavad Gita, who's interpreting the Bhagavad Gita, to interpret it in a very in such a way that they also implement it in their own lives. So if they have sort of a conservative belief system, then they would not be able to understand the expansiveness that the Bhagavad Gita is. So this book by Devdutt Pattanaik is a book that I often randomly read before going to sleep. I just pick this book up and I just take a random page, and I take it as a sign. I read the message that's there in that specific chapter and I begin to implement that. My Gita helps you understand how Bhagavad Gita talks about helping you live a beautiful lifestyle. It's a handbook and a guidebook for you, me, and every person that's ever alive or will ever be alive on this planet to live a wonderful, healthy life. Now, the 11th book that I would recommend, but not recommend it to everybody, is called Laws of the Spirit World by Khorshed Bhavnagri. Wait, what's the name? Bhavnagri, yes. So I'm not good with names, okay? That's my huge drawback. So this book called The Laws of the Spirit World is an absolute delight to read, of course, but of course it's not for everybody, because sometimes this book can be very blunt, and of course this needs to be implemented where you have sort of a level of discernment about how much and what to take from this book. Of course, it talks about things being good and bad, the hell and the heaven and the different realms of the spirit world, and what exactly happens when you reach the spirit realm. It's very important to have had worked on your own personal development, or to have had, been open to sort of the existence of something beyond that our eyes cannot see before you go on and read the laws of the spirit world. While these laws have to be implemented and must be implemented in each person's life, it's very important to first read the other books that are sort of encourage us to grow spiritually. This book talks about a couple who lost their children in a car accident. So they died very young, and one day this couple was extremely upset and sad and very depressed after their children passed away. When the spirit of their children began communicating with them. So just like the book Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch, this book is also channeled by two spirits, okay, from the spirit realm and onto this earth. It's very important to keep in mind, to keep a very open mind while reading this book, to understand that this book is much deeper than just its text. For example, this book helped me understand that why do we often think that bad people attract good people, or good people attract bad souls around them. It quite often is the case because many good souls who are healers and have this innate need to heal the world, they might feel more attracted towards people who need to be healed. So it's in a similar way that souls from higher realms, they go down to the lower realms to help souls from the lower realms advance and heal them. So it's sort of like a need that they have within their soul, and how we are always being helped from the spirit world, how we always have access to call them, how our ancestors and people who love us in the spirit realm are always watching over us, and the things that we should keep in mind while living a human life, how we should never break rules, we should never hurt other people, we should not intentionally do bad to anybody, how it's important to remain a good human being. Although these things are things that should be very obvious, but they're not that obvious. This book is definitely something that would open your mind and your spiritual beliefs to a huge extent. So this book is a must read if you really want to advance in your spiritual journey. The last book, and the book that I personally love, is of course, I love the other books as well, but this is where I currently am, is called KRISHNA, The Man and His Philosophy by Osho. This book is, of course, can be taken in a very controversial way if you don't have an open mind, if you haven't reached sort of like a level of spiritual ascension where you are able to understand Krishna for the good and the bad. For the aspects that Krishna, although he was God, he still did not stop Arjuna from going ahead and killing other people. He understood that good comes with bad and bad comes with good. And saying that I only want to see good in people, or I only am a good person without anything that's quote unquote bad, that's sort of like accepting only limbs and parts of ourselves. This book requires you to really keep a very open mind, to not feel offended. So if you're somebody who is on a stage where you easily get offended, or you have like a very strong critical mindset that I will review every single book for the way it is written, and I have this mindset of who Lord Krishna is and how Lord Krishna is supposed to be, then this book is definitely not for you. This book is definitely not for everyone, because this book talks about such beautiful concepts and expanding your mind beyond good and bad, right and wrong, of understanding and getting into Lord Krishna's mindset. You know, Lord Krishna was a person who accepted the spiritual realm and the human realm and the human world, and he never really did fret. He was not afraid. He did not say that certain things are evil or certain things are bad, are good. At the same time, he was not afraid to fight the evil. He was not afraid to save people. At the same time, he was not afraid to fight a war, to kill people if they did something wrong. Or even if, like for example, Arjuna's Dharma was to go ahead and fight, he did not stop Arjuna from going ahead and fighting. So this book I have always I've kept it at the end because, of course, understanding Osho's philosophy also takes a huge lifetimes at times. And many people do not agree with what Osho says. If you are one of them, like, it's completely up to you. And I respect your opinions. It's like you don't have to read this book. But this is just my personal take. And it really helped me believe that we have to go beyond just viewing things as good or bad, as things that something that if I only keep doing this, then only I can go to heaven. Or, you know, this concept of heaven or hell. And just dissecting things as these two Polaroid, these two worlds. Whereas everything is an amalgamation of everything else, if it makes sense. So this book is completely beautiful and expansive. And I recommend that you read this book if you have a very open mind and if you want to really understand Lord Krishna in depth. So these are all the book recommendations that I have for you, and I hope that this sort of helps you with your spiritual, mental and emotional journey wherever you are. So please do read the books in this specific order. If not, like, of course, it's always your choice. But this is something that's my recommendation. These are all my takes on these books. Please do let me know if you also have certain books, a book recommendation, or if you would also like to add certain pointers to these books. I would love to know your points of view, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. And life goes on. And bye bye. Take care.